and what. There are a lot of boys in Chirubi that have stolen goats and the like. They have been mixed with matters that even now, as I speak, there are boys that have been trying to help here and there to get them from Luingu to come and be tried in Chirubi because there's no major street in Chirubi. So these are factors that need to be given a real face. Not where we start joking about serious emotions like this one. And then you divide the nation in demons and angels. There's no angel when it comes to the law. The law is blind. So, Madam Speaker, I think before I become more emotional because of the boys that are in my mind, I would like to raise my case on this note.
Thank you. The next one is the Honorable Member for Mitete.
Madam Speaker, thank you so very much that Mitete has been given a voice on this motion. Number one, police is no longer police force, it's now police service. The men and women in uniform are human beings. They are human beings. Number two, a suspect remains a suspect. Not until proven guilty. Number three, there is at the police bond that can deal with some of the minor charges. No wonder I've said it's now police service. Before anyone could say no to this motion, all the debaters were saying this motion has been what's the word? Trivialized. By who? By themselves. None came here to say first to put a no. The mover, the seconder, the one who has just debated, they talking show. Talking show.
Order, Honorable Member. We want this debate to flow. I'll take the last point of order so that we wind up on this matter or motion so that we make progress. We've still got another matter pending on the order paper. So I will allow the first member who had indicated to rise on the point of order, the Honorable Member for Lumezi. He was before you.
Madam Speaker, this is a motion that has been ably moved by the people of Lumezi. Madam Speaker, I raise on a point of order pursuant to Standing Order 65. The Honorable Member debating has deliberately decided to mislead the country, himself, the people of Mitete, by using the word trivialize. In moving this motion, at no point did I use the word trivialize. Madam Speaker, at no point did we talk of police service and police force. Is in order to continue to deliberately mislead the Zambian people at large. I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker, relying on Standing Order 65. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think, honorable members, I had guided much earlier to say that we've got a motion which is very specific before us. and I urged you to stick to the motion. So I had just started listening to where the honorable member for Mitete was heading to, as he mentioned the police service, and also the other matter that he brought to say until somebody is proved guilty. So I was trying to build up on that. If it will be irrelevant, I will come in to say that that matter, honorable member, that you are trying to bring on the floor of the House regarding this motion, I think you've gone outside the motion. Can you please come back to the motion? So, honorable members, those that are still to debate, can we stick to the motion? There are people that are listening. Others are interested, others are not interested out there. So they want to hear your points. Why are you supporting or why are you not supporting? So that they are also satisfied. So with that guide, no more points of order so that we make progress. Can we be responsible enough so that we also stick to the standing orders as we debate the motion? The honorable member for Mitete, please continue with that guide in mind.
Well guided. Madam Speaker, it's not me who first mentioned the word trivializing.
I think we can now make progress, honorable member. We want to listen to your debate.
So,
you may continue.
with minor charges, what would sometimes happen at the police station, they even settle it out before someone is put into cells. That's what police service will do. I'm asked if I have ever been in the police cells. Madam Speaker, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Maybe to answer the one debating while is seated. Chamona song, Nakapaji, meaning whatever an impala would have seen, the water back will also see it. So, honorable member, I have been in cells, but I don't want to debate myself.
Honorable member on the floor, I think that is not important unless if you want to declare interest, but like I guided, can we stick to the motion rather than debating yourself? And please don't even listen to the people that are debating while seated. You are addressing the debate to me. So please continue, and I'm listening and I'm following you. You may continue.
I am not supporting this motion. Number one, what has been seen by an emperor, a waterback, is now seen. Number two, there is police bonds. Number three, not until you are proven guilty. Number four, when you are now taken to court and proven guilty, they are separate prisons. That's where now you separate people. That's where, Madam Speaker, people are now separated. This charge is a minor charge. They may even fine in court. Maybe if they had said, let's increase prisons, and the new Dawn government has put bunker beds, mattresses. So, what's the fear? What's the fear? We've seen the mattresses going to sales. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I'm brief for the first time today. I'm not supporting this motion. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you for allowing the people of Chiengi to debate this very important motion, private members' motion on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, the motion which has been ably moved by Honorable Mnia Zulu is a very important motion which affects every Zambian. Madam Speaker, um, I'm one of those who've been in cells. And I would want just also to say this to the government of the day, that we cannot have such kind of cells where you have some kind of one room, the next room is for male detainees, and then the first one is for female detainees, or the other way. Sometimes if you go to Woodlands cells, those two cells would be fully packed with male detainees. In the meantime, you have maybe a female in the passage. Madam Speaker, we are talking about human rights here, according to our Constitution, Article 18. Madam Speaker, if somebody commits an offense, if it's a misdemeanor, there's no need to treat a person like it's a felon case or suspect. It's very important that the government of the day listen to this very important motion on the floor of the House, because we have women, we've heard of women in Chiengi, Madam Speaker, where a 14-year-old girl who literally just insulted the mother, and she was taken to the cell and she was raped by a policeman. It's in the public domain. Because of the vulnerability and, of course, because of the way the cells are structured, it's very important that we agree as a House. This has got nothing to do with politics. This has got everything to do with our people in Zambia, and also the dignity of the Zambians who are detained. You are not proven guilty by being arrested. And we are talking about misdemeanor cases, Madam Speaker. It's the reason I would want also to urge our colleagues on the right-hand side and left-hand side that, like what Honorable Mitete has just said, Chauna Muzapo. Today we'll take it like we can take it maybe lightly, but this is very important, Madam Speaker. I'll give being is a person who's been going to prisons to minister. Prisons are different. It's so painful. But I'm talking of the cells, Madam Speaker. If you go in those cells, I've given two examples. I've been in Emersdale, and I've visited some people at Woodlands. Madam Speaker, it's very important that we have cells that would say, okay, here is for male who have committed maybe suspects of felon, and here is for suspects of misdemeanor, and here are women. It's so humiliating for women, no matter what kind of offenses they've committed, Madam Speaker. A woman is sacred. So we cannot have a woman being, put in the passage. And these two here is for males. I think it's quite inhuman. All that I can ask is that let's respect the human rights of these people who are arrested and detained while they're being investigated or their cases are being investigated. All that I want to say, may I urge both sides to take this motion as a very important motion where the government will be urged to start building separate cells. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support this motion.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Feira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Feira to also add on the voice. Madam Speaker, I just have a few points to add on, even as I support the motion that has been ably moved by Honorable Mnia Zulu and supported by, who supported it? Thank you. Seconded by Chisali, Member of Parliament. Madam Speaker, the issue has arisen because of the interactivity between people who are suspected to have committed offenses. Clearly, there are people that are suspected of committed bigger crimes, so to speak, and lesser offenses. In the same way that the law apportions the gravity of offenses, we have felonies and misdemeanors in the penal code. In like manner, we are saying that we need to have cells for people accordingly as the law has provided. And learning from there, I find it easier that, we should agree that we have, this arrangement. Now, we need to look at things from an objective point of view. It's not about what affects you today or tomorrow. Because if we do that, we'll keep on going around circles. So, Madam Speaker, I really want to support the motion. And indeed, the issue that we are trying to avoid is that there shouldn't be, because when the people are in the cells, they interact, they share stories, and you find hardcore criminals who open, a specialist in opening any lock, be it a hotel lock, car locks, and so on. This may affect someone who just picked an egg from somewhere, who's also in the same cell. And as my colleagues have said, at the end of the day, as society, because when we're talking about the police, we're talking about the justice system. At the end of the day, we are not doing good to society. And I think that I, once again, pay tribute to my colleagues for coming up with such a brilliant motion. Madam Speaker, this motion would have not come forth if the police, which they are saying police service, in practice, is still the police force. Why should the member, we struggle, to get someone who's at the level of member of parliament to sign police bond? All those issues, there are certain things that you don't even need documentation. In short, if the police, as was said earlier by the president when he first opened this house, that now police bond, where you have an offense which is bondable, it will easily be given as long as there are sureties. This is not happening. Therefore, this motion has come to cure such of these issues. Madam Speaker, before I sit down, allow me just to extend these special cells to children. As a country, we are signatories to the Convention on the Rights of the Children, and we are also, we enacted in this House the Penal Code Act. Sorry, not the Penal Code, but the Children's Code Act. And clearly, the Children's Code Act states that whatever we do, the interests of the children must be put at center stage. And I think that we should have those cells. And by law now we define children. I know there are many definitions, but principally it's those below the age of 18. And I think that in like manner, and as already debated, even women, let's have these special cells, because these people have not yet been convicted. And the Constitution guarantees the rights of suspects or people that are merely accused. This thing which we are seeing, that people who are just accused are treated as if in fact, the police treat you like, hey, you snatched some land. You've committed a crime. Why are you here? This is what happens. So we need, as a country, to take any steps, strong steps to avoid all this. Madam Speaker, with all that, once again, I emphasize that I support this motion. It's, not political, and I think it's in the interest of this country, interest of Zambians. I thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Katombola.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Katombola constituency to add their voice on the motion which is before the floor of this august House. Madam Speaker, first and foremost, I want to begin by saying that we do not support this motion for the following reasons. One, Madam Speaker, the law in Zambia, I heard my friends who are still students of law trying to quote the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, Madam Speaker, provides in Article 23 of the Constitution of Zambia through a non-discrimination clause. So suspects are supposed to be treated the same. There are no hardcore suspects and non-hardcore suspects. Criminal cases, Madam Speaker, are well provided for in the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. And the complainants in the case are the people of Zambia. That's why the case is the people versus whosoever it is. There is no way we are going to have a scenario where suspects are treated different because of the presumption of innocence, which is well entrenched in our Constitution, particularly in the provisions of Article 18, Sub-Article 2, which is very, very clear. This is how it is. It's the complainants are the people. So there's no way you are going to treat suspects different because in any case, the rule of law has now been restored under the new Dawn UPND government. Suspects are entitled to police bond if the offense is a minor offense. I'm surprised, Madam Speaker, that the honorable member, the one who moved the motion, can suggest that suspects should be treated different based on the status of whether the offense is minor, is a misdemeanor, or is a felonious offense. That has never worked anywhere. They have tried to quote one or two countries where they have not researched to understand the difference between an accusatorial system and an inquisitorial system. What they are talking about doesn't apply to Zambia. It does not apply to Zambia, Madam Speaker. There is no country in this world using the accusatorial system that is allowing suspects to be treated different. When you're a suspect, you are a suspect. There is no hardcore suspect and a minor core suspect. There is nothing like that, Madam Speaker. And the people of Katombola constituency, in view of the restoration of the rule of law under the new Dawn government, where the president has clearly directed to say that no accused person should be kept in jail longer than is necessary in accordance with the provisions of the law. The honorable member that moved this motion is very clear to the Criminal Procedure Code. Particularly is my former student, Honorable Mnia Zulu. He understands and he should read the provisions of Section 33 of the Criminal Procedure Code, Chapter 88 of the laws of Zambia.
Honorable member on the floor, you are not supposed to lecture the mover of the motion. It's very important that you just put the facts before the House. Don't lecture the honorable member or the mover of the motion. If you are not supporting the motion, just give reasons why you are not supporting the motion on the floor. Let's not lecture ourselves or other members on the floor. You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the guidance. The people of Katombola appreciates you, Madam Speaker. The point I was making is that we are not supporting the motion because nowhere in the world is a separate cell created for suspects and classifying suspects to say, you are hardcore, you are that. It has never worked anywhere, Madam Speaker. And we have a number of precedents or case law that we can refer to relating to the subject is trying to introduce. The PF was in government for 10 years. Why didn't you move that motion? Why didn't they pass that law?
Imagine.
Why wasn't that law passed? If it's a good law.
Honorable member, please, we are discussing this motion now. Can we just take it that this is a motion that has been brought to the House? Can you support it or you don't agree with it? Just put your facts. You may continue, honorable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What I was saying is that the point I was making is that we don't support the motion because rule of law has since been restored in Zambia. There's no more political violence. No one is being detained beyond the law that is provided, which is Section 33 that I was quoting. Accused persons facing minor offenses as suspects are admitted to police bond for the very first time. For the very, very first time, rule of law has been brought to its fore to ensure that everyone is treated fairly. And some of your members, Madam Speaker, well, same day they were admitted to police bond. Most of them are moving to police bonds in their pockets.
We shall
Thank you,
not
Madam Speaker.
discuss ourselves, honorable member. We shall not debate ourselves. Find another example. Please find another example and you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The point I was making is that now the rule of law has been restored. No one is being detained for a longer period. There's no need for them to worry. Police bonds are available. There is no more interference with the police. The police are now independent. The rule of law has been restored. Good governance has been restored. Madam Speaker, we will not support this motion of the people of Katombola. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you.
I'll get the last member, the honorable member Fonkana.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you, and let me start by declaring interest in the subject matter at hand. Why am I declaring interest? Madam Speaker, the reason is that there was an attempt to frivolously and vexatiously indict people that are very close to me on trumped-up charges. Now, I want us, Madam Speaker, to have a very candid conversation because the matter at hand affects all of us. It's not for the politicians, it's for Zambian people. Madam Speaker, a prison or holding cell is a hotel for almost every Zambian. Because where I come from, we say, umlandu mume baukumpula fie. A crime is like dew. You can pick it up anytime, anyhow. Now, Madam Speaker, the little I learned when I was studying law is that what we're discussing now, crime is categorized in three. There are misdemeanors, there are cases, Madam Speaker, that would be heinous, and there are felonies. Now, I want to remind some of the debaters before me, Madam Speaker, there's actually a separation on how people are treated right from when one is accused. When one is accused to have committed a felony, they are never given bond. That is a separation already. Even when they are convicted, when they have committed a crime, or rather a felony or a heinous crime, most of them ends up at a maximum facility. That is a separation. So nobody should claim there is no separation. I still want to remind all of us here, the presumption of innocence before being proven guilty is the basis on why we should treat citizens in a fair manner. Madam Speaker, the mover of the motion is simply saying, can we begin to separate those that could have committed grave offenses as we hold them to determine whether they are innocent or not from those that could have committed very minor offenses we refer to as misdemeanors? There's nothing strange, Madam Speaker, and nobody in their sane mind should suggest that there's no separation in how we treat people who would have alleged or would have been convicted to have actually committed this crime. There actually is a separation at all levels, Madam Speaker. The work we have here as members of parliament is to work towards bettering things. Our commitment, Madam Speaker, as members of parliament is to do things better and to make things better than we found them. We are not reinventing the wheel here. We are basically trying to make a commitment to doing something different. If there's never been a time when cells were separated, who stops us from doing that. Because our collective responsibility now, as members of parliament, is to make things different from how we found them. The call by the member of parliament from Lumezi is simple. Because, Madam Speaker, nobody should claim that we have a police service. Yes, by pronouncement, we still have a force, Madam Speaker. Nobody, Madam Speaker, should claim today bonds are being given as prescribed by the law within 48 hours. I brought an issue not too long ago, Madam Speaker, which issue I was expected or I was required to lay evidence. How I wish that day I would have laid the Minister of Home Affairs as evidence there, because I had presented a matter to the Home Affairs Minister.
Order, honorable member, please, let's not involve other people in your debate. Try as much as possible to avoid debating the minister or the honorable members.
Madam Speaker, what I'm saying is that it is important once in life to be candid, to be factual, to be truthful, and confront things as they are. Madam Speaker, if we are to be forgiven by God, first of all, it starts by acknowledging that you have sinned. For us to correct wrongs, we must start by acknowledging that there is a wrong. I have referred to an issue I brought 2 days ago, Madam Speaker, where a young man was being detained for a minor offense of criminal trespass. Criminal trespass, Madam Speaker, is a misdemeanor. You cannot keep somebody in police custody for 9 days for a misdemeanor. So these things, Honorable Member for Katombola, still exist. And if you expect me to lay evidence, I can lay evidence today because I'm very prepared. What the Honorable Member of Parliament for Lumezi is basically saying, we have a duty and a commitment as members of Parliament not to leave the status quo in regards to things, but to try and do things different. There's nothing sinister, Madam Speaker. If, when convicted, criminals are separated as to where they are held. Other prison facilities being for those that could have committed lesser offenses, and other criminals who are now being held in maximum correctional facilities because they might have committed grave offenses. What would therefore be sinister in us separating them from when they are alleged to have committed a crime? There's nothing sinister. All we have to do, honorable members in here, is to collectively agree that we have a job to do. Number one, to make correctional facilities better, because ours is a responsibility, because our prison system does not go for punitive or punishment. It calls for correction. To correct somebody, you must subject them to human treatment. We are a signatory to the Human Convention on, to the United Nations Convention on Human Rights. Our disposition and our responsibility is to ensure that we subject people, whether they are charged or sentenced, to human treatment, because our system is a correctional approach, as not punitive. Our presumption of innocence dictates that we must treat people, because at being charged, you are presumed to be innocent until when the one with the mandate to prove the burden of proof has proved that you are actually guilty. Because remember, Madam Speaker, the burden of proof still lies with the prosecution, the people who alleges, because he who alleges must actually prove. Madam Speaker, I'm now going back to school, because this subject requires us to be factual, to be candid, to be honest. We are having a very honest conversation. We must never pretend like we don't know that these grave, activities are going around. Madam Speaker, I declared interest. One day or another, I may find myself in that situation. I just want to be treated in a human way. Umulandu mume baukumpula fie. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Next time, just mind the way you hold your book, because it might even fall on the honorable members in front of you. I'm going to allow the Honorable, I don't know whether to start with the Honorable Minister of Justice, and the Honor, you also come in, and the Honorable Minister for Home Affairs to respond to the issues that were being raised before we pour upon the Honorable Member for Lumezi to wind up debate. The Honorable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I must begin by stating right off the cuff that the government does not support the motion on the floor of the House. The government is not emotional in taking this position. And basically, I will explain in my debate the reason for the position taken by government. And of course, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs will add to the discussion. Madam Speaker, the starting point is that, first of all, the motion in terms of the debate of the mover and the seconder of the motion appeared not to fully speak to the issue that is at hand here. And the issue at hand is in relation to, one, persons who are held in police custody before they are presented to court. Those are the people that are subject of this discussion here. And those, by their nature, are suspects and not convicted persons. There's a significant difference there. There's been a lot of reference to the presumption of innocence, and that's where I suppose we can begin to have a candid discussion. It was suggested by some of the supporters of the motion that it's being trivialized or not being taken seriously. Madam Speaker, the government does take these matters very, very seriously. Indeed, just as the Honorable Member for Chilubi stated that there are people that he has witnessed himself being kept in custody, we have walked that path, Madam Speaker. And so when we speak on behalf of government, we are coming from a point of knowledge where the order of the day was political detentions and persons being kept in custody without them having committed any offense worth speaking of. So we take it very seriously. And in still insisting that the motion must fail, we have that in mind. Madam Speaker, first of all, the presumption of innocence, I go back to it. What does that entail? It entails that only a court of competent jurisdiction can find a person who is suspected of having committed an offense guilty or otherwise. Therefore, this argument that has been put forward, the debate that has been put forward, that they are hardcore criminals and those that have committed minor offenses must be separated, is counterintuitive. It is counterintuitive in the sense that only a person that a court has convicted can then be found to be either a hardcore criminal or otherwise. The argument by those supporting this motion ignores the fact that there is a possibility that individual X and Y, who may be accused of having committed what has been referred to as a heinous crime, a capital offense, for example, of murder, he may be innocent, I may be guilty. And where are we resolving the mischief by saying these people should be separated before they've been convicted? What am I saying? There is a possibility, using the argument from our colleagues, that an innocent person, such as individual X or Y, will be put in a cell, if their argument is to succeed, will be put in a cell with a person who is guilty. Where is the mischief being dealt with there? Until and unless there is a conviction, the possibility of myself finding myself in a situation where I am with a person who has actually committed offenses is high. Who draws the line? That is the question. It is only a court of competent jurisdiction that can do so. Prior to that, we are all seen in the same eyes as innocent people, and that is why there is no separation or distinction between persons who are held in police custody for the short time that they are held before going to court and before being tried and convicted. Madam Speaker, what is more in our rejection of this particular motion is that it is not based on any law. The mover of the motion has simply said that there must be a separation. Where is the impetus for that coming from? The law does not provide for such a procedure. Therefore, what the mover is asking the government to do is to commit a breach of the laws of this land. Essentially, there's no legal position in the Constitution or any subsidiary legislation which provides for such a step to be taken, where persons are separated, discriminated, in fact, against on the basis of the alleged offenses that they committed. The motion is not tenable at law, therefore cannot succeed before this Honorable House. It was suggested by the mover of the motion that there are certain provisions of United Nations conventions that we must follow as provided in those conventions in supporting the motion. It could not be further from the truth. Madam Speaker, I'll be technical. The provisions that the mover of the motion was referring to are known as the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners, also known as the Mandela Rules. Madam Speaker, the Mandela Rules comprise 122 rules. And, Madam Speaker, they are very specific, in fact, on the nature of treatment of persons that are held in custody. There's a clear distinction in the Mandela Rules as to prisoners and persons that are simply held in custody, and those are specifically referred to, Madam Speaker, in the Mandela Rules as, I beg your pardon, I'll find the provision. Yes, these are referred to as untried persons. Now, the very provisions that the Honorable Member was citing are clear that untried persons are to be dealt with in a particular manner. And in particular, I'll refer those who are viewing this debate and the Honorable Members to Rule 119, going forward up to Rule 122, where those who are held in police custody, there are provisions that deal with them. None of those provisions require that individuals be separated prior to them being convicted. The untried persons, that are persons who have been arrested or who are awaiting trial, have got specific provisions that relate to them, and none of those refers to separation on account of the proposed charges that the accused person is facing. If I may quickly read, Madam Speaker, what those particular provisions state. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm out of time. Maybe I'll run quickly to what they generally provide. They provide for these persons having access to food of their own choice if they so wish. These persons having access to legal practitioners, depending on the charge that they are faced with and the detention period. And more importantly, these rules provide for classification of prisoners, that is post-conviction, based on the charge that they have been, or the conviction that they have received. There is no such rule in terms of untried persons, that is suspects only. So the rules, in fact, from an international perspective, which we subscribe to as Zambia, are also very clear that there is no discrimination of persons who are simply held in detention as suspects. The motion, Madam Speaker, is not informed in law or in fact. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make government's position pertaining to the motion that was raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Lumezi, which reads, "This create separate police cells for minor offenses in Zambia." Madam Speaker, this particular motion.
Order, honorable members, the group where there is the independent whip, the voices are too loud.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this particular motion is full of conjecture, is speculative, and full of flaws. Madam Speaker, the motion is speaking to the need to create offenses, cells for minor offenses. But the debate which is on the floor of this House is totally alienated from the motion that is being moved. Madam Speaker, if the intention of the mover was to create conducive conditions for suspects who are being held in police cells, we would have supported the motion. But the way it is, we cannot. I would like, as I move the opposition to this particular motion, to adopt the submission of the learned Minister of Justice on this particular matter. Madam Speaker, for ease of reference, I would like to state that a police cell, as the House may wish to know, is a secure room in a police station where suspects are detained temporarily, or a room in a police station for temporarily holding arrested people or those awaiting transfer to another more permanent facility. It therefore follows, Madam Speaker, that it does not hold any water and have an iota of relevance to the situations that are obtaining currently. For the information of Honorable Munia and my colleague, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Chinsali, I want to state that all new police stations that are being constructed, they have separate police cells for males, females, and children in accordance with the laws currently in force. That is what we are doing currently. Madam Speaker, I also want to state that for the time being, our priorities are not to create separate cells for minor offenses. As my colleague has rightly argued, everyone is presumed innocent. Even those you are alleging to have committed murder, they may be innocent. They are merely accused persons. So we cannot punish them as it is alleged that they must be held separately so that other criminal activities can continue in those cells. We have a duty and responsibility that everyone who's detained in police cells is treated fairly. The arguments that are being raised are totally different. If the argument was that those who are held in police cells and their cases are bondable, let them be given police bond, we would have been supporting such arguments. And I will not state on the floor of this House that no one has been detained for longer periods contrary to the provisions of the law. That has been happening. And we are putting corrective measures. So the arguments which are being put here are flawed. Our arguments should be that let the Zambia Police Service follow the law. If a case is bondable, let a person be bonded. And if it's not bondable, let the person be taken to court within 48 hours as per provisions of the law, not the arguments we are raising on the floor of this House. Even the written statement which I had, I cannot present it here, Madam Speaker, because there are no points which have been raised by the mover and the seconder. If I had a way, I would have urged my colleagues to go and rephrase the motion to suit what we should be discussing here. In that light, I will indicate that the government does not support this particular motion and request my colleagues to object to this motion and ask everyone to ensure that everyone who is under police custody is treated fairly, not as what the motion is speaking about.
Thank you. The honorable member for Lumezi wind-up debate.
Madam Speaker, permit me to mention that indeed I declare interest, Honorable Member for Katombora as my lecturer, and his submissions are flawed. Madam Speaker, there is no way a member of parliament talks of the president as if a president is a lawmaker. Madam Speaker, members of parliament make laws for the betterment of our citizens. Madam Speaker, you've got a Minister of Justice who is State Counsel saying, where is the law? When we are supposed to make laws. And we are proud to state that there is no law when we are supposed to be making laws in this country. State Counsel of that matter, asking where is the law?
The honorable member
We are
for
supposed to make the
Lumezi.
law, Madam Speaker.
Yes, honorable member for Lumezi, you are winding up debate. You are closing the debate. We are not starting the debate now. We are winding up. So can you please stick to that? Just wind up debate so that we move to the next stage.
Madam Speaker, suspects have to be treated the same according to Article 23 that was cited. Madam Speaker, this motion, I can confirm now that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Madam Speaker, in the next few months, or maybe for a benefit of doubt, let's give it 3 years, the potential cell beds are not on your left. Madam Speaker, earlier on when I moved the motion, I spoke to the law. I now intend to speak to facts. Madam Speaker, how I wish that Honorable Jack Mwimbu was State Counsel. He should have known that punishment starts at the point of police cells, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you are incarcerated, Madam Speaker, in those ugly, filthy cells.
Order, honorable member. Is it possible you can just summarize? Because you are winding up. Instead of bringing this name, that name, just summarize what you've heard from your colleagues so that we move to the next stage. Just summarize or finalize the debate.
Madam Speaker, as I wind up my debate, I'm speaking to the responses that I got, and I was taking notes. Madam Speaker, punishment starts at the point of you being incarcerated in cells. The way the police officers deal with citizens, and the police are the best people to decampaign any government, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm speaking to facts and not the law. I've put the law aside for now because someone is not aware that we are here to make laws, and his State Counsel.
Order,
Madam
honorable
Speaker.
member.
Objection, Madam Speaker.
Order, honorable member.
Objection.
Order.
A point of order.
Order.
On a point of order, Madam Speaker.
we have I think we made the ruling. Order, honorable members, there was a ruling that we were not going to take any more points of order, and I requested the members on the floor to be responsible enough so that they also take into consideration the standing orders. So the honorable member for Lumezi, you are supposed to wind up the debate on the motion which says the House urges the government to create separate police cells for persons charged with minor offenses. What is the summary out of all this discussion that was there towards this same motion that you raised yourself? How do you summarize it?
Madam Speaker, in supporting this motion, Madam Speaker, were all your members on the left and the right. Madam Speaker, it so happens that you've got members that were my lecturers on your right that intended to deregister UPND when they served as the registrar of societies.
But again, that is not important for your motion. Just give us important points for your motion. Just wind up your motion, honorable member. This is your motion. Can you close your motion?
Madam Speaker, Zambia has 452 police cells. Madam Speaker, it is not my wish and intent to see any of your members, Madam Speaker, including the support staff, to be subjected to those ugly cells. Even those potential suspects that will be picked in the near future will remember me and they will say, Munir Zulu spoke as a Jewish prophet. I do not claim to be one, Madam Speaker. I've got the gift of the gab. I can see the future. And my motion was speaking to the future. This motion, Madam Speaker, is not speaking to the present. It's talking to the future. Madam Speaker, we've got your own members, either on your left or your right, that were arrested under the MMD government. And they were treated to very ugly cells. Madam Speaker, you've got female members. This is a fact. I'm not speaking to the law. Madam Speaker, members give birth on passages. Female citizens giving birth on a passage at a police station. And then we should be here saying the law, we treat everyone fairly. Madam Speaker, pronouncements and what happens are not telling. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I pray to Allah that I believe in, that this should not happen to those that think this is a trivial matter. Madam Speaker, when you are in power, there are those members that support your stay in power even with lies. And that is what I'm coming to learn. That's why someone who intended to deregister the UPND is their member of parliament.
Order, honorable member. I think now that is way out. Order, honorable members. The issue that has been brought in now by the mover of the motion is not connected to the motion on the floor. It's not connected to the creation of separate police cells. Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members. We have to make progress. The honorable member for Lumezi, please in future try to, when you are summarizing or when you are winding up debate, you have to keep in mind the motion that you've raised yourself. Now you are bringing in a lot of other issues which are not connected to your motion. This is your motion. So you've only got, is it 14 seconds? Please wind up debate so that we make progress.
Madam Speaker, the Zambian people have listened and they know we mean well. This motion was not segregative. This motion was not only speaking to your members. We are lawmakers. This we must support. I submit, Madam
Your
Speaker.
time is up. Order, honorable members. I put the question. The question is that this House urges the government to create separate police cells for persons charged with minor offenses. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. I think the noes have it. The question is in the negative. Is there a division? I can't see the division. A division is called Ring the bells. The what? Oh, I thought you had given me. Okay. I have it here. You tell me when to. Yes, yes. Okay.
After Mr. Munia Zulu's motion, which was moved earlier, that's a private motion, create separate police cells for minor offences, that this House urges the government to create separate police cells for persons charged with minor offences. So this means the House has to vote to this motion.
Yes, Taza, and just to make mention that still to come on the order paper, we have a resumption of a debate on a motion of thanks. His Excellency the President's address, and at the time business was interrupted yesterday. On the floor of the House was a chamber member of Parliament, and so the bells are still ringing. A division has been called, like my colleague mentioned, to say a division has been called on a private member's motion that was moved by Lumezi Member of Parliament, Mr. Munia Zulu, titled Create Separate Police Cells for Minor Offences, that this House urges the government to create separate police cells for persons charged with minor offences. A private member's motion that was moved, seconded by Chinsali Member of Parliament, Mr. Kalabwe Mukosa. And so members of Parliament are expected to vote to this motion.
Exactly, Matimba. So bells are still ringing, calling on all members of Parliament to come in the House so that they can vote to the motion. And so far, the House has considered 4 questions for oral answer under Standing Order 74, which we will give you the details at a later stage. And earlier on, Madam Speaker did make 2 announcements.
Yes, Taza. Madam Speaker also permitted the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Ruben Mutolo Piri, to render a ministerial statement. This was on the government position on the future of the Farmer Input Support Program, FISIP, and so we will be giving you details of this ministerial statement later on.
Okay, order, honorable members, close the bar, clear the lobbies, and lock the doors. The House will vote electronically using the Bosch multimedia system. Please log into the system. When you hear the paging sound, the vote has opened and the voting screen is displayed on your microphone unit. Select the present key. On the top right side of the screen, you see the words, please cast your vote. Select one of the options, yes, no, or abstain. Once you have selected one of the options, you see the words, vote has been cast on the right side of the screen. Should I go? When you hear the second paging sound, the vote will close after 1 minute. Okay. It's 1 minute. Okay. You have just voted. I need to stand. Eh? I need to stand. I need to stand. Okay. The results are as follows. Yes, we have 37. The noes, we have 76. Abstain, 0. Therefore, the question has been negatived. Order, honorable members, order. We make progress. Order. The clerk will now read the order of the day.
Thanks. His Excellency the President's address, motion of 13th September 2023, resumption of debate.
When business was interrupted yesterday, Tuesday, 19th September 2023, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member for Mandi that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the President's address. And the Honorable Member for Chembe was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was saying Zambia's economy continues to underutilize its natural resources as if it is under economic sanctions. Madam Speaker, the world order is now changing. The environment has a critical role to play in feeding the economic activities in order to have a self-sustaining economy. Madam Speaker, when you look at the way the world order is,
countries that has been trying to help in terms of sustaining our economy, they are trying to show certain indicators to say we can no longer helping in terms of sustaining our economies.
Order, honorable members, the voices on my right are becoming louder and louder. We want to listen to the debate. If we want to caucus, we can actually go out so that we have the room to ourselves to caucus louder. But meanwhile, as we are here, please let's maintain silence or speak in low voices so that we are able to hear the debate. The honorable member for Chembe, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was saying the world order is now changing slowly, and each country requires to navigate in how it can sustain itself economically. And all the things that a country needs in order to sustain itself can only be sustained by utilizing the environment successfully.
Order, honorable member for Chembe. There is an indication for a point of order. Though I can't see the person indicating for the point of order, I can only hear the voice. The honorable member for Shangombo, what is your point of order?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's on the identity of the debater. As you can see, my face is showing and it's me. But when the debater was debating, the picture looks completely different from him. Is our staff, in order to put a different picture of the man who is debating? I need to seriously.
The honorable member for Shangombo, please, that is an administrative matter. You could have just written to the clerks at the table. It does not qualify as a point of order. The honorable member for Chembe, please continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what I was trying to say is that promoting domestic financing.
Honorable members, you may sit, honorable
Thank
member
you,
for
Madam.
Chembe. Honorable members, we are going to start the session when the room is conducive or when the house is conducive. Otherwise, we cannot continue. The honorable member for Chembe, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know my brother is admiring my jacket. Madam Speaker, I was saying, currently, the people that we have been relying on, or stakeholders that we have been relying on in helping us in terms of domestic financing, currently, there is a shift that they are trying to, which is coming on board. And the good example I can give is the recent workshop that your members here under the Committee for Health that they had to do with how health sector can improve in domestic financing. Those are indicators to show that a country needs to start navigating and to see on how it can sustain itself. Madam Speaker, also the way bilateral and multilateral relations, the way they are going world over, those are signs. But
The only thing that can make us propel our economy is by unlocking our environmental sustainability, because all the resources that we need are drawn from the environment. But alas, when you look at the budget even for the Ministry of Green Economy, it is only 0.5%. At the same time, the ministry has not even employed its personnel. Yes, we have got the 30,000 teachers. We are only talking about employing 30,000 teachers. We are talking about nurses. But how about the officers in the Ministry of the Green Economy? Because these are the people who are able to liaise with other ministries like the Ministry of the Mines in order to exploit our natural resources for the needed development that we need. But that is not moving as expected. Madam Speaker, when you look at, we have got a lot of deposits. Chamber, my constituency, is one of it. But Ministry of Green Economy cannot go and do a risk assessment there. There are not enough resources. When you talk of Umpika, it has got minerals. When you talk of Mapatizia, it has got minerals. But we can't utilize these minerals accordingly. Madam Speaker, what we are saying is we have got a lot of mukula lying idle around. We can't have the roadmap on how that mukula can be used so that it can be used in our economy. What I can say, Madam Speaker, is that as Zambia, we have failed to tally our economical sustainability into our environmental sustainability. Hence, these hiccups that we have been having in terms of making our economy thrive. Madam Speaker, to crown it all, I can see my time is not with me. Let us have an environment sustainability that is able to feed into our economic sustainability in order to propel our economy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kasama Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for granting the people of Kasama a voice to the presidential debate. Madam Speaker, synergy between progressive governments is the key to success. And as we can see, the Kasama airport has been completed. This is a true example to know that governments are progressive. The airport is going to open up for tourism, Madam Speaker, but only a few people are going to afford to get onto a flight into Kasama. Madam Speaker, flights are not affordable. Flying into Mansa or flying into Kasama is almost the same flight fare as flying into Johannesburg. There needs to be more players in the field of aviation so that we can have cost-effective flights and the airports can be more at use. Madam Speaker, the presidential speech spoke about airports that also need to be rehabilitated. But yet again, in Kasama, we have Intumpa University. We have so many learners. Secondary schools are being built, schools are being built. What are we doing about tertiary education? Completion of Intumpa University is equally important, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, phase 2 of Kasama General Hospital also needs to be looked into. Population has grown, dynamics have changed. It is therefore key that government should also look into expanding some of these projects that were never completed, because it is now, the baton has been passed on to this government. Completion of incomplete projects needs to come into play. Madam Speaker, we will have a lot of tourists coming into the northern province, but yet, once again, the cost of tourism in the country is very high. We were assured that the cost of local tourism is likely to come down. But looking once again, we do not have ample infrastructure, Madam Speaker. The speech did not have any plans to promote national development progress in tourism. We do have Chishimba Falls, we do have Ndole Bay, we also have Kasaba Bay. All those tourism sites need to be looked into and investors need to come into that area. Madam Speaker, I know it's a song for the day, but we continue to speak about one thing, cost of living. The people of Kasama have also echoed their voice on cost of living. Mealie meal, Madam Speaker, is not the only expensive commodity at the moment. The food basket has risen. Madam Speaker, it always remains a question, and such speeches needed to have a way of letting us know how does government intend to alleviate poverty in the country. Madam Speaker, due to high cost of living, we have come across quite a number of vices. Most of us, our homes have been broken into. We've had petty thefts here and there, all because people need to put food on the table. Madam Speaker, 1,024,434 farmers are on the FISIP program. Madam Speaker, if we translate it into the entire country, that is only 5%. The figure may seem quite a lot, but I think we need to do more as a nation. Farming blocks need to come into effect, Madam Speaker, because farming blocks will also increase the production of the country. And Madam Speaker, there was also an area that was not ably covered. There was no commitment to environmental conservation. Madam Speaker, just from the byproducts of most of the farming products, for example, maize cobs, rice husks, all those are alternative methods of, there are also alternative methods of, what's the word? Okay, so what I'm trying to say, climate change is real, and then we need alternative methods of, to charcoal. Right now, we are burning down quite a number of trees in order for charcoal. LPG is not affordable for most homes. What is the government doing? We need to look at briquettes that can be made from rice husks, maize cobs, and other byproducts. By so doing, this will cover quite a lot of households, and that will be a way to cut down on how we are destroying the environment. Madam Speaker, there is also need for constant policy direction on farming. We may have the 1,024,334 farmers, but yet again, Madam Speaker, we do not speak about projection. What do we expect from the inputs that we'll give them? Once we start to project on what the farming inputs given out, the farmers that are given, we should be able to project. We do project on copper production. Why is it that we also do not project on what our farming season for the following year is going to be? It is extremely important, Madam Speaker, that that is also followed. Madam Speaker, finally, I also wish to retaliate that we all stand in this house as a country, and we all need to remember that we serve the Zambian people. It is important to realize that speaking about the cost of living is not politicking. Madam Speaker, the situation is real, and it needs to be addressed more on how alleviation of the cost of living can be assisted. People are really, really suffering out there. And as members of parliament, we are also feeling the pressure because every now and then we have to come out and assist certain households that cannot afford a daily meal. So, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have another lady, the Honorable Member for Chikankata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Chikankata to add their thought on this very important motion on the floor of the House, presented to this House by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, on 8 September 2023. Madam Speaker, let me use this opportunity to thank Madam Speaker for launching Nelly Moot Foundation and donating computers at her former school in Mongu, the Holy Cross School. Madam Speaker, allow me to quote the theme of this address, and I quote, building on the socio-economic gains for improved livelihood and a better Zambia. Madam Speaker, this theme tells us that the address was telling us the achievement of the New Dawn government in the past 2 years of it being in power. Coming from that backdrop, Madam Speaker, I'll focus my debate on page 24, human and social development, and I'll narrow it down to free education policy has created opportunities for all citizens to access education. Madam Speaker, education is an equalizer. And Madam Speaker, the first step to development is education. If you educate the nation, you create development to that nation. Madam Speaker, we have countries in this world that are developed. The first plan in their development plan was to invest into education. At the moment, we have countries like Japan that invested the first 25 years in its development plan into education. And this is why Japan is the way it is at the moment. Madam Speaker, coming from that background, the New Dawn government in 2021, it gave a policy direction of free education, which started in 2022. Madam Speaker, this is a non-discrimination policy that gave an opportunity to all Zambian children, regardless of where they come from, where they are, who they are. That's a progressive policy for a Zambian president. Madam Speaker, in Chikankata, the free education policy, it came up with its own demands, the demand of having more teachers. And we have a government that is able to listen. And it responded in positive by recruiting 30 teachers. In Chikankata alone, we had 120 teachers. What does it mean, Madam Speaker? Recruiting just one teacher, it means that we empower 6 people at household level that are benefiting financially direct. You empower the community where those people are living, the teachers, economically and socially. The lives of that community changes because there's money in circulation in that particular community. Madam Speaker, talking of Chikankata, out of the 120 who were employed, times 6 people at household level, it means that we empowered 960 people at household level in that community. It means that the lives of the people in Chikankata changed because of the free education policy of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Madam Speaker, the free education policy came up with other demands of education infrastructure, where through the CDF, most of the constituencies, we are constructing classroom blocks. We are constructing staff houses. What does it mean? Just one contractor is going to employ more than 10 young people at that particular construction site. That's what we call job creation for the young people of Zambia. We have one policy, Madam Speaker, that is attracting a lot of sectors within our economy. That's what it means to have a progressive leader as a president. Madam Speaker, under the New Dawn government, we've also seen under the policy, free policy education, we are also procuring desks. Chikankata alone, we've procured 3,000 desks, meaning that we are giving opportunities to our children. Every child will sit on the desk. Unlike what we saw in the past, where some children were sitting on the floor, other children were sitting on the desk. Meanwhile, at the end of the year, our children were writing the same exam, but with different opportunities. But under the New Dawn government, all the children, by the end of 2025, they'll have access to a desk, meaning they'll have the same opportunity of writing the same exam, and they'll perform better because they've been given a comfortable environment. The procuring of desks also motivates the educators. When you are an educator, you have learners who are seated properly. You have the motivation to teach. Also, the learners, they have been given an opportunity to sit in a good environment where when the educator is teaching them, they are able to pay attention. Unlike what we saw in the past, our children would sit on the floor and the teacher is teaching in front. They will not pay attention. At the end of the year, they are given the same exams. Some of our children failed because of the environment which they were exposed to of sitting on the floor. Madam Speaker, talking of agriculture, I come from Chikankata, which is an agriculture area. That's the main business we do in Chikankata. But with a progressive government of the New Dawn government, under the FISIPO, Madam Speaker, the floor price of maize was increased from 180 to 280. What does it mean, Madam Speaker? That's what we call more money in the pockets. And like what we heard, the theory of more money in the pocket, meanwhile money was only in the few elitists. But under the New Dawn government, we are taking more money in the pockets in the rural areas. What does it mean? It means that most of our people, even myself, I'll be encouraged to go back to the land to plow because there's money out there in the rural areas. Madam Speaker, with this policy of increasing the floor price of maize, it means that we'll even reduce urbanization. We'll not have a lot of people in the urban. People will go back to the land where there's money. Madam Speaker, these are progressive policies of the New Dawn government. When we talk of education, Madam Speaker, you cannot say someone is investing in education is not a good leader, because this is a leader who's thinking of the intra and intergeneration of this country. It means that the future of this country is bright because we have a leader who's able to think of the future through education. If you give knowledge to an individual, you empower them. You give them money without the empowerment of knowledge, they will not do anything with money. But if you give the education to your child, it means that you empower them for the rest of their life. With these few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support this very progressive speech which was presented on the floor of this House. I submit.
Thank you. Honorable members, the quorum has collapsed. Where are the whips? And we are planning to adjust even the time on our standing orders. You made submissions that we increase the time. Even before we do that, the quorum has collapsed. Can we ring the bell? We have the quorum. Can we please be seated? The next member to debate is the independent, the honorable member for Chasefu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for according the good people of Chasefu this opportunity to debate on the motion of the President that was presented on the 8th Friday this month. Madam Speaker, today my speech or my debate will be supported by facts and information. When the president walked into this house, it reminded me the day I was elected and came to sit in this house. He spoke to this nation. He mentioned words that as the president of the Republic of Zambia, who set the bar high for leadership. What came to me was, is it true that in this country we can have leaders who are objective and mean well for the nation in terms of development? Now, when he came the third time, I confirmed to say, yes, we have a leader who means well for the country. Madam Speaker, I'm speaking as a member of parliament for Chasefu. When I stand to speak, I speak representing the good people of Chasefu, and the people are listening to me. Number one, Madam Speaker, what is Chasefu constituency? How is it in terms of development? Madam Speaker, those who come to Chasefu and see, you will see the constituency that you would be wondering whether it is part of this country. 58 years of independence. No infrastructure. Before the New Dawn administration, we had only 425 teachers. The New Dawn administration recruited 473, more than that we had. I asked myself, is this the development that we want in Chasefu? Are the people of Chasefu our children? Do they deserve the best in terms of the pupil-teacher ratio, in terms of having the best as any other part of this country? Madam Speaker, these figures do not lie. Madam Speaker, when I always debate, I always say that Lusaka is not Zambia. Chasefu is part of Zambia. What wrong have the people of Chasefu committed 58 years after independence to be denied development the way we have lagged behind? I see a government that gives us figures, and I will mention them. Empowerment grants 2022, 1.92 thousand. 120 people empowered. 2023, 100 people empowered. Total, 4 million. Has it happened before? No. I will come to...
Honorable members, I think we are not supposed to involve ourselves in his debate. And the honorable members, please don't ask your colleagues, you are debating. You may continue.
Madam Speaker, what I'm trying to say, that leadership looks at the people in general, without segregation. The people of Chasefu are Zambians. What you see in Lusaka here, those Zambians Chasefu deserve. The neglect that they suffered has now been restored by President Hakainde. We have our own graders. We have started building schools. We have built the first mortuary after independence. As a member of parliament, I'm proud to associate myself with a government that looks at a Zambian just like any other person. You cannot develop one part of the country and you say we have put this airport, that airport. What we need in Chasefu is to have the same infrastructure, to have our children sit on a desk. Right now we have desks. That is all what they deserve. Basic development issues, not rhetoric. We want actual things, which the president has brought. Now, in 2 years, I confirm the word he said, I'm setting the bar very high for leadership. Now, when I sit as a member of parliament, whom do I associate with? That which brings good things for the people of Chasefu, or that which develops Lusaka only and neglect the people of Chasefu? Madam Speaker, there are no roads in Chasefu. We have our own graders. We are going to buy more things. Now, as I'm speaking, it's not an issue of graders. It's an issue, why have you started there? We need it there because we have our own. So I will come and sit here, look at myself, keep quiet. When I compare, there was mediocrity and there is good leadership. In terms of Chasefu, those who want to argue with me, they can argue because they live in Lusaka. I also live in Lusaka, but the good people of Chasefu, they need a leadership that cares for them. And as I'm speaking to you, things for the people of Chasefu, they're just saying if we can have 32.7 million by the end of the year, what more in 3 years? So, what we need in this country is a leadership that looks at people like Kaunda did when he was taking the Basco plant to the rural part of this country. Don't have leaders who think about themselves because they live in Lusaka. Those flyover bridges we have done, they are good because I drive through them. But for the people of Chasefu, there is no road. Chipata Lundazi Road, as lamented by my friends, it's as if you are not in this country. When you look at Chasefu Chama Road, there is no road. So I'm appealing to the new dawn. As you are doing very well with President Akainde, don't do like others who failed. Honorable Minister of Finance, give us the roads. So, when you see me sit here, Madam Speaker, I lament on behalf of the people of Chasefu. The best is which they are having now. And please, President Akainde, wherever you are, close your ears, eyes on the ball. Because so far, if we are to speak about CDF, everyone here has. The 32 I have, they also have, but they don't want to disclose. These things are happening everywhere. And this is the development the Zambians need. Don't come here, we start differing, talking about what happened. You are developing Lusaka only. Develop Chasefu, Fera, Shangombo. When I watch the pictures of Shangombo, 58 years of independence. We need to spread development evenly. I'm happy with the president. I associate with him because he's a serious president who has set the bar very high. Now, page 2 of his speech, Madam Speaker, he mentioned that development is not a smooth line. He acknowledged the challenges and said it is equal to the task and is going to deal with it. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Order. The Honorable Member for Uzakile.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to the people of Usakire.
Order, honorable members. We are running out of time. Let's give him chance. You may continue, honorable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to the people of Usakire to comment on the presidential speech, which was delivered to this August on the 8th of September 2023, whose theme is on page 3, and I quote, building on the socio-economic gains for improved livelihoods and better Zambia. Madam Speaker, page 3. This speech, Madam Speaker, makes interesting readings. Madam Speaker, the President's speech has painted a very bright macroeconomic environment with the 4.7% economic growth and 9.9 single-digit inflation. However, His Excellency acknowledged that the government is struggling to bring down the inflation rate. That is what should make us take the so-called 4.7 economic growth with a pinch of salt. Here, Madam Speaker, we expected the President to explain the drivers behind the economic growth. It is a well-known fact that there is a close relationship between inflation and exchange rates. The two, they move in tandem. It is practically impossible to have inflation rate and exchange rates pulling in the opposite direction. Madam Speaker, given the number of trips, international trips the President has taken, we expected him to tell us how much foreign direct investment he has attracted to this country, has come to this country, and in which sectors it has been invested. That is what we expected. It is very worrying for him to claim economic growth when wherever he goes, is being greeted with one word, njala, njala, njala. That is the greeting wherever he goes.
Meaning what, honorable member?
Meaning hunger, hunger, hunger.
Enough, honorable member.
Madam Speaker, macroeconomic indicators are very worrying due to the high cost of living. In a country where there is economic growth, there is trickle-down effect to the people. Pantu ichalo, bantu.
Why has the what stopped?
Pantu ichalo, bantu. The country's people. So there should be trickle-down effect. Madam Speaker, in this parliament, you are fond of quoting great men like Nelson Mandela said what, Aristotle said what. Today, I want to quote President Ichilema what he said, what he once said, and I quote, if the government can't change the lives of the people should change the government. And I call upon many Zambians to change this government because it has failed to change the lives of the people.
Order, honorable member. Please try as much as possible to stick to the speech.
It's just a quotation. I'm within, Madam Speaker.
No, try to be in line with the speech.
Okay, I see controversy. Let me move to mining. Madam Speaker, in this speech, there's a mention of KCM. There's a brag of having cut this deal, handed over KCM to Vendetta. In Usakire, we are not calling it an handover. It is an handout. That is what we are calling it. Madam Speaker, this deal is a reckless deal. Why is it a reckless deal? We know where we come from with Vendetta. So many bad faces that Vendetta has. And in a bid to motivate the return of Vendetta to KCM, a delay was caused in order to create hopelessness, anxiety, and uncertainty, whilst presenting Vendetta as the only alternative. That is unacceptable. Madam Speaker, this is a bitter deal, a tasteless deal, inappropriate, a wrong one. Vendetta, this is a company, this is an investor whose payroll of 100 expatriates was equivalent to the salary of our local miners, 2,200 local miners.
Member, the pronunciations don't matter so much. I think we know the... Yeah, can we please allow the honorable member to proceed? Order, honorable members on my right. Can we allow the honorable member to proceed? The honorable member for Uzakira, you can proceed.
Madam Speaker, this Vendetta or Gawa, yeah, Gawa is a person. Vendetta is a company. This is a broke investor, and it's in public everywhere. He's trying to borrow money to pump in that. That same $1 billion is pledging. Even previously, he did the same. He has come with a sugar-coated deal. Maybe I'm reading within it. Page 13. He has sugar-coated this deal, Madam Speaker, so that you give him for free. As he got it previously, yes. Page 13. This is what he has promised. $1 billion investment in Konkora deep mining, $250,000 million payments to local debtors, an annual $20 billion investment into the community.
Honorable member, order. As the time is 19:10 hours, I interrupt the proceedings and debate stands adjourned. Day for resumption of debate.
Tomorrow, Madam Speaker.
Debate to resume tomorrow. Please close it. The acting leader of government business adjournment.
Sorry, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
Order. As no notice of an item for debate on the motion of adjournment of the House has been received, I put the question. The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House is now adjourned.
A look at business that has been considered from the time business resumed at 14:30.
Yes, Madam Speaker made two announcements. In the first announcement, Madam Speaker acquainted the House with the presence in the Speaker's gallery of members of the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee from the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya. And so on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, Madam Speaker received the distinguished guests and warmly welcomed them.
Thereafter, Madam Speaker made another announcement in which she reminded the House that the debate on the motion of thanks to the President's address commenced on 13th September 2023 in accordance with Standing Order 19 of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2021. The debate lasts 10 sitting days. Therefore, the last day for debating the motion is Thursday, 28th September 2023. Madam Speaker informed the House that the last 3 days are reserved for the Executive to debate and respond to the issues raised by the backbench, meaning that starting from Tuesday, 26th September 2023, priority will be given to honorable ministers to debate the motion before it is wound up on Thursday, 28th September 2023.
Thereafter, Madam Speaker permitted the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Ruben Mutolopiri, to render a ministerial statement. This was on government position on the future of the Farmer Input Support Program, FISIP, and so the Minister indicated that the ministerial statement was necessitated by a matter of urgent public importance raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Nakonde constituency, Mr. Lucas Simumba. The Minister went on to say that government has no immediate intentions of phasing out FISIP. Rather, government working on improving its operations. The targeted number of beneficiaries is the usual 1,024,434 kwacha.
The Minister went on to state that the implementation of the FISP has over the year contributed to the surplus figures recorded for maize, which is a staple food, and however, despite the achievements attributed to the implementation of FISP, the program has been hampered by a number of challenges, which include the following: poor targeting of beneficiaries, malpractices by some officers and stakeholders entrusted to implement the program.
And the third one, which is the blanket fertilizer applications, which is in some cases as resulting the wastage of inputs. And the fourth one is lack of a beneficiary exit strategy and an alternative financing mechanism to support beneficiaries who may wish to graduate from FISIP.
And in view of the outlined challenges, the Minister stated that the government of the Republic of Zambia has embarked on FISP reforms with the aim of improving the implementation of the program and its overall contribution to the development of the sector and the economy as a whole.
The minister went on to state that the Comprehensive Agriculture Support Transformation Program, CATSIP, will guide the agriculture sector going forward, and the reforms will extend to FISIP. The minister went on to say that within the CATSIP, government will prioritize the transformation of the FISIP into an efficient, smart subsidy that enhances agricultural production and productivity and ensures all beneficiaries that are adequately supported to graduate to higher levels of production.
The minister further stated that the proposed reforms of the Farmer Input Support Program under the framework of the Comprehensive Agriculture Support Transformation Program will include the following: measures to enhance the targeting of FISP beneficiaries, which will also include the strengthening of the beneficiary identification through biometrics and other options.
And the second one is the introduction of a graduation strategy and an alternative financing mechanism to support farmers who graduate from FISIP.
And the other one does include measures to promote increased private sector participation in the supply and distribution of farming inputs.
And the other one, the minister did indicate to say that measures to promote and accelerate agriculture diversification through the implementation of more crops on the FISIP program. The minister also indicated to say that measures to improve the productivity of FISIP beneficiaries through enhanced extension, and the last one is measures to target the right crops in the right ecological zones.
And further, the minister went on to state that in the 2023-2024 agriculture season, the eligibility criteria for one to qualify to receive inputs under FISP will be as follows. An individual farmer should be a member of a registered farmer organization and selected by the Camp Agriculture Committee, be a registered small-scale farmer and actively involved in farming within the camp coverage area, cultivating not more than 5 hectares of land.
The fourth one, have the capacity to pay and prescribed farmer contribution of 400 kwacha, not employed by government public institutions and not in formal employment, should be a Zambian and possesses a green national registration card, and should have an active phone number, and not benefiting from a similar government program such as the Food Security Pack under Ministry of Community Development and Social Services.
The minister then went on to indicate that the government of the Republic of Zambia remains committed to the implementation of FISP as it is a viable means of increasing access to quality and affordable inputs in the country.
After that ministerial statement, the House went on to consider 4 questions for oral answer under Standing Order 74. And question number 1, which is question number 36, came from Kapoche, Member of Parliament, Mr. Lungu. And he posed this question to the Minister of Agriculture. He wanted to find out a question in 3 parts: whether the government has any plans to include all village headmen women countrywide on the Farmer Input Support Program. And the minister did respond to say that it caters for all eligible Zambians, including all village headmen and women. In the B part of the question, the Member of Parliament wanted to find out if so when the plans will be implemented. And the minister responded to say that there are no plans to be implemented since all eligible Zambians are included.
Matimba, we also had question number 38, which came from Chinsali, Member of Parliament, that's Mr. Kalalwe Mukosa, and he asked the Minister of Community Development and Social Services what measures the government is taking to ensure that all government offices and buildings are made accessible to persons with disabilities. We did see the acting minister respond by saying that government enacted the Persons with Disabilities Act number 6 of 2012, which facilitates independent living and full participation of all aspects of life.
Another question came from Mukushi North Member of Parliament, Mr. Christopher Chibuye, and he posed this question to the Minister of Green Economy and Environment. He wanted to find out whether the government has any plans to legalize part of the settlements established by the traditional leaders in forest reserves in Mukushi North Parliamentary Constituency, and the minister did respond to say that government has no plans. Therefore, the B part and C part of the question fell off.
And then later on, we did see the House go on to consider a private member's motion. This motion was moved by Lumezi Member of Parliament, Mr. Munia Zulu, create separate police cells for minor offences. But this House urges the government to create separate police cells for persons charged with minor offences. This motion was seconded by Chinsali Member of Parliament, Mr. Kalalwe Mukosa. And there was a division after the debate to this motion, and after the voting was cast, the question was put and it was negative.
Thereafter, there was a resumption of debate on a motion of thanks. His Excellency, the President's address, that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the President's address, a motion that was moved by Mwandi, Member of Parliament, and seconded by Kafulafuta, Member of Parliament. At the time, business was interrupted. On the floor of the House was Wasakile, Member of Parliament, Mr. Kalobo, debating to this motion.
Exactly, Matimba. And so that's just about the business that has been considered today. So from me, Matimba, and the entire production crew, and of course our sign language interpreters, please remember to stay tuned as our broadcasting hours have been extended to 22 hours. Meanwhile, have a pleasant evening.